Hi, I'm Plami, and in this episode of Plami's Thoughts On, I'm gonna be sharing my thoughts to episode 12 of the 6th season of one of my favorite shows, Fear the Walking Dead. And yeah, it's actually been a few weeks since that episode was released, so I'm sorry for taking so long to doing this review video, but due to personal stuff and being busy with personal life stuff, like I've talked about before, I'm currently trying to get my driver's license. That's been my that's what my attention has been focused on in the last few months. But I'm almost done with it, so I'm going to be able to focus more on doing YouTube videos again. But that's the reason why I haven't been able to do the review to Fear the Walking Dead. But I actually enjoyed this episode. It's not my favorite or anything, but I actually think it was really cool. And I wasn't surprised to see people hating on this episode, but I feel like some people still are trying to turn the tide and opinion for this season of Fear the Walking Dead back to what it was for season 4 and 5. Like, okay, I get it. We all miss what Fear the Walking Dead was in the first 3 seasons. I think that's a common opinion everybody agrees with. And we would have all much preferred to have OG Fear the Walking Dead as its own show, and Morgan's Fear the Walking Dead as its own show. I would have enjoyed it probably more than I do now if it was its own show, but it's not. So at this point, our complaining about the reboot of Fear the Walking Dead isn't going to bring the OG Fear the Walking Dead back. It's a done deal. It's gone. It's gone. The best we can do right now is either move on with our life and stop getting involved with the show, or start to look on the bright side of things and focus on the positives rather than the negatives. But some people on the subreddit for Fear the Walking Dead still seem to be trying to turn the tide and act as if the bad moments in this season are as bad as season 4 and 5, which I completely disagree. I haven't seen all of season 4 and 5 because they were pretty freaking bad, but I can definitely tell you that it's nowhere near as bad as those. If you can't tell the difference between a dream sequence episode and a beer balloon, I don't know what to tell you. If you can't see why one of those is bad and the other one is, I mean, it could be good, it could be bad as well. Like, I don't know what to tell you. The dream sequence can be done good, and I think it was actually done decently for what it was. The only problem that I have with the dream sequence in this episode is that it went on too long. It was too long. It would be fine if it was like maybe 20 minutes to half an hour of the episode, which maybe if you pinpoint all the moments in which we saw the dream sequence, maybe it ends up being exactly that amount, but it should have been less than half the episode. It should have been as much as it was. But still, I think the dream sequence is actually really cool. And I actually wouldn't have minded if they actually did this for real. Like, this was after an actual time skip, which we might still get after the end of season 6, depending on where they go with the finale for the season. But yeah, I enjoyed it. And there's a lot that I want to talk about the episode, so I guess let's first get out the comparison that I want to make with Fear the Walking Dead Season 6 and Far Cry. Specifically Far Cry 5 and Far Cry New Dawn. Because Far Cry 5, for those of you who don't know, by the way, check out my playthrough of Far Cry 5. I know that the videos are not great to look at. I know that. But I really enjoyed that game, and I think you're gonna enjoy my playthroughs. If you enjoy my videos in general, I think you're gonna enjoy those playthroughs. But it's a really good game, and the villain in that game is basically kind of like what Teddy is. It's just the difference is that in Far Cry 5 he's a religious zealot who thinks that the end of the world is coming, and he ends up shooting out a nuke or predicting that nukes are gonna get shot out all around the world, so the end of the world comes. And in the sequel game, Far Cry New Dawn, basically you have a post-apocalyptic society with a lot of purple overgrown stuff everywhere, which is kind of what happened in this episode of Fear the Walking Dead. So I think they were either intentionally drawing inspiration from Far Cry New Dawn, or I mean, there's no way that they didn't. Like, come on, having a pink grass and trees is such a distinct visual that there's no way that they did not get inspired by by Far Cry New Dawn, you know. And by the way, Far Cry New Dawn was a really fun game to play, and it's a better looking video, so I think you'll be able to enjoy at least that one if you can't enjoy my Far Cry 5 videos. So yeah, I really like the similarities between this and Far Cry, definitely making me like the season even more. But in general, I think the sequence is executed for the most part right. At first, we were kind of thrown into the episode not knowing what the hell is happening. And by the way, I really like how in the intro of the episode, the intro sequence, you have a little bit of a flash of Grace's future daughter as well, getting the title card spotlight, meaning that this episode is just as much about Grace as it is about her daughter, which makes the ending of the episode so freaking sad, but I don't know. I did really like the actress and the performance of Grace's daughter. I think her name was Athena. It's been like 2 weeks since that episode. I'm sorry, I don't remember absolutely everything about it. But I did enjoy her, and I liked her chemistry with Grace. I thought it was great, and I think it would have been cool if we actually had her as a character later on after the time skip after season 6, but I don't know. I don't want to really judge the writing choices, or should I say the story choices of the writers, because I wouldn't like that to be done to me either, because you don't really necessarily choose where your story is going to go. When you're writing, it might just flow out of your head in one direction, and you just kind of add things to that flow of the story, and sometimes you might intentionally force the story to go in a certain direction, but in any case, I don't want to really judge anybody on that. So the visuals in this episode were really interesting, even though it feels like the trees weren't necessarily painted in pink, it was done in post-production, so that kind of makes it a little bit ugly, but for the most part, I enjoyed the look of the episode. I really liked seeing the future versions of all the characters, and I literally had the exact same reaction as Grace when she saw Daniel and Strand. I literally said Daniel at the same time as she did, and it was super funny when I watched it. Dwight didn't seem to have changed that much. He maybe looked a little bit older, but not really that much. And for a second there, I thought his son was his daughter. I thought he was a girl because of the long hair. And it's not like I have anything against long hair. I had long hair myself when I first started this YouTube channel, so it's nothing like that. But I thought he was a girl, and I kind of liked that he had a long-haired girl that was a tomboy more than him having a son who has a long hair. And apparently this is Austin Emilio's real son, so that's cool, I guess. I mean, it's cool to have your children work on the same show with you. I find that very nice. But at the same time, from an outsider perspective, it feels very much like, I don't know what's the word for it in English, whenever you get job for your family because they're your family. I don't know what's the word for it. But it kind of comes off like that, especially with also the news that Jeffrey Dean Morgan is also going to have his kid play as a walker in season 11. But still, it was cool to see him in the future and everything. I like all the future versions of the characters. The one thing in that sequence in the dream part of it, where Grace was walking around the place, Morgan's community, was that Morgan was surprisingly nonchalant about Grace being alive, because supposedly in the dream sequence future world, she was dead. So why the fuck would he believe that that is Grace? And also, if he remembers how Grace looked, like if Grace in the dream sequence looked just as Grace looks in the real world, wouldn't he have this being mind blown by her the second he saw Grace? Wouldn't he have recognized her? I mean, I get it, it's a dream, it doesn't need to make sense, but it still comes off as a little stupid from viewer's perspective because you're questioning stuff, you know? Even though, like, you can say, oh, it's a dream stuff, that's how he wasn't confused about it, but it's not really a satisfying explanation, you know? I feel like he could have written it without having me nitpicking, being able to nitpick. But still, it was fine. It's not really a big deal. I don't really nitpick stuff like that. So after that, we actually have a pretty harrowing scene where a car blows up and sends Grace away. That was actually a pretty scary scene. It was a jump scare. It scared me for sure. And we kinda ended up seeing a little bit of the real world and realizing that's a dream and everything. And honestly, at that point is where the dream stuff, I mean, it started to become boring a little bit, and I did not really give a shit. I wanted to see what happens in the real world. Because it's not in the real world, I don't really feel invested. So a lot of scenes there started to get boring with her, with Grace talking to her imaginary daughter, telling her that she's not real, to leave her alone because Grace has to get out of this place and everything. It just felt like it did not give a shit. It started to drag on. Luckily, there were a lot of real life stuff, in the real world stuff interspersed with those scenes, so it didn't drag on too much, but that's pretty much where this episode's low point is. After that, once we get to see Riley, who is the second in command in the End is the Beginning group people, who is played actually by, I don't know if I mentioned that in my last review of Fear of the Holding, but he's played by the guy from Terminator 3? Was the second he showed up in the episode, it became instantly that much better, both in the real world and in the dreamland, because in the real world we had some really cool interactions between him and Morgan, and the fight choreography where Morgan takes out all like 5 people was actually pretty fucking brutal. And honestly, Walking Dead should get should write some notes for Fear the Walking Dead season 6, because the brutality has been freaking amazing. And I've said this before, but holy hell, how brutal this season has been. It's amazing. While The Walking Dead for some reason is shying away from the violence and the gore. I don't understand why. Is it Hank that is doing this? I don't think so, because in season 9 there was plenty of fucking gore, but in season 10 they kind of hit it again. And also in the dream sequence, I loved all the fights as well, and the makeup for when he becomes a zombie in the dream world was so good looking. And I even commented this on Reddit, like, I think talking zombies would be too over the top and unbelievable for a zombie universe like The Walking Dead, so I don't necessarily want them to ever do it. But at the other side of things, the Whisperers were such a cool villains because they looked like talking zombies. And in this episode we have, in the dream sequence, Riley be literally a talking zombie, and that looked so cool and it was so fun to watch. So even though I don't think The Walking Dead should do talking zombies, I can't deny that it would be so fucking awesome to see that, you know? Maybe in like a non-canon spin-off or something, or an alternative universe or whatever. I would love to see that, but yeah, I don't know. It was so cool, like all the fights between the Walker, the Dream Walkers and everything was so freaking cool. And also I gotta say, that barn sequence, the whole barn sequence in the Dream world felt very reminiscent of Telltale's The Walking Dead, the final season. Which, by the way, as we're talking about Telltale's The Walking Dead, I just started my replay of all 4 seasons of Telltale's The Walking Dead. I've done episode 1, it should be uploaded about the same time I upload this video, so you should definitely check that out if you're interested. Because yeah, it's not my first playthrough, I've played it many times, but I think it's still gonna be fun experience for you and me to have together, you know? So yeah, it reminded me a lot of Tales of the Walking Dead, the final season, specifically the sequence in the barn from season 4 where, and I've talked about it when I did my playthrough of the final season, because I actually did blind playthrough of that season, but that sequence in the barn of the final season made me kind of resonate with walkers, made me kind of really get into the mindset of the Whispers in a way, you know. And I got the same feeling from this whole sequence in this episode, because in this episode we also had one walker standing up and playing with like a birdhouse or something above it. It just looked so freaking cool, and it was the same thing. It gave me the exact same emotion, so I really liked that. And again, we had a fight occurring both in the dream world and in the real world with the same people essentially, and it was cool to see both the dream world fight and the real world fight. Both were really cool. And after that comes the ending of the episode, where for some reason Grace acts super irrationally, and I've seen people criticize her behavior in that moment for being stupid and for thinking that her baby is gonna save everybody, so Morgan should just give away a key to a nuke to a villain that is going to use that nuke to blow up everything. But consider this, she's just survived an explosion. She's pregnant. She's about to have a baby. Don't you think that all the rush of emotions and everything, and considering the dream stuff that she saw, would confuse her mind and fill her mind with stuff that would not really allow her to think rationally about things? You can criticize Morgan for just letting the key go, but at the same time even he couldn't do that much, because what was he supposed to do? Just attack Riley while he's pointing a gun at Grace and risk her death and her baby's death? No, it was much better decision to give the key away. It just wasn't presented in the best way possible by the writers, I would say. And then we have probably the best part of the episode in my opinion, and what should have been done a long time ago in The Walking Dead, or just in a better episode, having a stillborn baby. I'm surprised that it took 17 seasons of the Walking Dead universe to finally get a stillborn baby. Because in the comics, well, while it wasn't a stillborn, Judy died all the way back in the prison together with Lori, and that was pretty much the most brutal thing, I would say, killing a baby like that. So I'm surprised it took 17 seasons of the Walking Dead universe to get anything remotely as close in its darkness and brutality. And while it didn't make me cry, it did really hit pretty hard. It was a pretty dark ending right there. I did really like that as an ending. So yeah, overall, this is not a great episode, but I would say it's a decent episode. And the note that I want to end on when it comes to this review is that there is more than two possible opinions. Not everything has to be the best ever or the worst ever. Those are just the ends of a spectrum. A spectrum filled with different opinions that you can have. So, for God's sake, stop clinging to the ends of the spectrum. Because most of the time, nothing is on the ends of the spectrum. Most things are in between. So stop acting as if an episode, just because it's not the best or it has a lot of faults, it's suddenly the worst thing ever. And at the same time, stop having episodes with few faults as the best thing ever. They're not. Nothing is. Nothing is the worst and nothing is the best. A lot of it is just in between. Because this episode has a lot of faults, sure, but it also has great visuals, great concepts, and great ending. It has a lot of good going for it. So to disregard all the good just because it has a lot of bad seems wrong to me. I think it's better to have a more balanced opinion about it. And I feel like I personally, at least, most of the time I am able to have a balanced opinion about stuff, so I wish more people would do that. It's fine to criticize it, just be balanced about it and point out the positives as well, you know? And the same applies for when something you think is good. Find the negatives so you can be balanced about your opinion. Yeah, I don't know. In terms of a rating, I don't know if it's necessarily going to be corresponding to how I would rate the episodes to each other, but I feel like this episode for me is like a 6.7 out of 10. It's not great, but it's not the worst thing ever. I've definitely seen worse episodes, and I would say that episode 7 for me personally was worse because at least in this episode I was invested throughout most of it. I was paying attention to stuff. In episode 7 they shoved a completely uninteresting and unimportant character into the story and made the episode that was supposed to be about a character that I cared about be about that other character, and he didn't really do anything. So what was the point of including him in it? I still don't get it. Maybe on rewatch I'll feel different about it, but right now I don't like it. So for me that episode is much worse because to me being boring is much worse than being bad. Maybe that's not an opinion you agree with, but that's how I feel about it. Because I can at least enjoy a bad episode for how bad it is, but I can't enjoy something for how boring it is. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like and subscribe. Also check out the link in the description to my Twitter if you don't follow me there, and to my Wattpad about my stories. Because in addition to doing all these videos on my channel, I'm also a writer. And if you enjoy my stories or you can see my channel videos, you can head over to Patreon where you can pledge support and help get the channel going. You can support me so I can keep writing the stories you enjoy. But if you don't want to do it, that's completely fine. You can still help me out in other ways like liking this video, subscribing, and especially sharing this video with somebody who you think might enjoy it. And I think it's pretty much it for this video, so hopefully I'm gonna see you in the next one. Bye!